So earlier today on my hike, I not only had one revelation, but two. And in this video, I'm going to discuss the second revelation I got and just break it down so it makes sense. So I was thinking about, all the mental health issues that people have today, and it seems like everybody and their brother are anxious to one degree or another, or have some kind of psychosis they're dealing with, or are being medicated for it. I think, one in every 4 or 5 Americans now are taking some type of antidepressant or some type of medicine that is supposed to help them with whatever mental health issue that it is that they're dealing with. And mental health, it seems, has really become an epidemic, I'd say, in the last 10 years. It's no longer really stigmatized. It's, people are more open about it, and it seems like it is more normalized if you have a mental issue as opposed to not having a mental issue. So you're the norm if you're struggling with your mental health, or it seems like that at least. And I would say within the past 5 years or so, it's really exploded. And I think that the reason why mental health is no longer stigmatized, or it's no longer a taboo to discuss, and why so many people now have become open about it, is not because of some idea that we're progressing forward, or as a society we're becoming more open-minded. I think it has nothing to do with that. And I don't believe in the theory that like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, people were more private and discreet about their mental health issues, and that all along people have always been in a state of bad mental health. I think that's a fallacy, because I think we're living in the end times, and it says in the book of Revelation, people's hearts will fail them on behalf of fear. And I know that can be interpreted in different ways, but let's say in that verse or passage or whatever, they are talking about your physical heart in the Greek or Hebrew translation. Let's say they mean it's your literally heart that's failing you because of fear. Well, the heart is interconnected with the mind, and there are a lot of scientists, psychologists, and even theologians and people in the ministry in years past who say that between 85 to 95% of all physical disease begins in the mind or is emotionally rooted. So even if they are talking about your physical heart in that passage, it still is tied in with your mental and emotional state, even if it's indirect, because the mind affects the whole body. And there's loads of scripture that prove that statement. But anyhow, I think that mental health is more prominent now than it was in times past, because the family unit is breaking down, and because our minds are being so overstimulated by the technology and information explosion. Technology has grown at an exponential pace. It's hard for me to explain what that means, but it's like the growth of technology is multiplying. So you could say in the past 10 years, the technological advancement in that time period, the past 10 years that is, has doubled than the 10 years before that. It has quadrupled in the past 10 years than that. So the technology that has advanced in the past 10 years is equal to that in the 20 years before that, or maybe even the 30 years before that. And I think that's why time seems to be moving faster and faster and faster. Something that I frequently tell people about, and I'm faithful that the Lord will reveal this to me eventually at some point in time. But I am so blown away at the fact that the year 2009 specifically was 13 years ago. My mind can't comprehend it. I don't understand how that was a decade and some change. It makes no sense to me, because physically and mentally, it seems like it was only 4 or 5 years ago. That year stands out to me for a multitude of personal reasons. That was the year I celebrated my 18th birthday, and I was just really going through a lot that year, emotionally and mentally. But a lot of older people, a lot of boomers, in response to what I just said, will say, well, it's just because you're getting older, and that's what happens when you get older, as time gets faster, and da, 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 da. And I understand that. But the thing is that it just feels like, it seems unnatural that 2009 was 13 years ago. It doesn't seem logical. And I think that's part and due to the fact that you got to remember, 2009 was 13 years ago. But with the technology explosion causing things to move at a faster rate, which as a result causes things to have to be done at a faster rate, causing a state of panic and frenzy within everybody, that's going to make time go by a lot faster. So you could, in a sense, you could say that the past 13 years, time-wise, was as fast, or went by as fast, as the 26 years time period before 2009. So I know this is kind of abstract and kind of complex, but the time that passed, this is my theory, the time that passed between 2009 and now, which is the year 2022, is equivalent to the same amount of time that passed between 1983 and 2009, which is double the amount of the 13 years that passed between 2009 and now. You can't refer to time by a calendar, by human measurement. And I believe I heard that from, I can't remember the source or where I heard this, but I heard that that time has the ability to speed up and slow down. I don't have the intellect to explain that or conceptualize that, but I'm sure, you know, some special professor or scientist or whatnot could explain that and rationalize it and theorize it and explain it in a way that makes sense, or maybe even use some kind of evidence to support that. But I've also heard from, I'm not going to say any names, but from a prophet on YouTube, that time is actually speeding up. They're finding out that the days are shortening. The amount of time that it takes for a day to pass is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but somewhere in the book of Revelation it mentions that exact fact. So I'm getting off track, I think. But where I'm going with all this is, I think the reason why so many people now have mental health issues is they're overwhelmed by every aspect of life, because everything has become so artificial. And as human beings, in no time in human history have we been around so much technology and so much artificiality. Our bodies are not designed to handle all this constant stimulation. So why wouldn't we have nervous breakdowns? Why wouldn't we have mental health issues? On top of the fact that there's a breakdown in the morals of society. But I mean, like, our bodies aren't designed to eat processed foods. You're seeing an uproar, or not an uproar, but you're seeing a surge or an explosion in the amount of people who have food allergies and food intolerances. because all this food has been altered and all this food is man-made. So if our physical bodies cannot handle certain types of food or be around certain chemicals and we've developed allergies, what do you think our mind's going to do in response to all the technology, all the stimuli, all the social media, all the internet, all the negativity in the news? But I think that this anxiety that we're experiencing from modern society is not only an underlying subconscious sense of helplessness because our minds can't interpret all this stimuli and doesn't know how to resolve it. Our brains, can't keep up with it. But on the flip side, as a positive, all this anxiety and all this mental health deterioration that you've seen in society in the past few years, it could be a cue or a symptom or a way of our minds telling ourselves that too much technology is actually a bad thing. Too much technological advancement can be a detriment. It can be counterproductive to the progress that society is making. And I think what's going to happen is, because our minds can't handle all this technology and it creates an anxious state. You've already seen it with people becoming more conscientious in what they eat. I don't think people smoke as much as they used to. You see all these diets that have been developed you've seen all these diets have been developed to counteract food allergies and for weight loss, like keto and carnivore, paleo type diets. People become more health conscious and more knowledgeable about their personal health, I'd say, in the past 10 years or so. I think you're going to see the same thing with technology. You're already seeing this with smartphones. It hasn't really become very mainstream yet, but it's gotten a noticeable amount of attention, where I think there's these phones. They're basically smartphones, but they're dumbed down smartphones. They're more simpler smartphones. They're more basic. And by definition, that's a reversion or a digression in technological advancement. But it is progression through regression in all actuality. Because in order for people to move forward, I believe in the last phase of the end times, people are going to have to become less dependent on technology and are going to have to separate themselves from all the technology.